Hello and welcome to Round Robin. I'm your host, Robin McCormick with the City of Hampton. And today we are all going to learn a little bit more about how to be safe on our internet-connected devices, whether that's a portable phone or your laptop. My guest is Trina Coleman. Welcome.
Thanks for having me, Robin.
This is a daunting topic.
Yes,
but
it
you
is.
recently opened a business and you've become an expert in this area.
I have, and I like to pride myself on saying I'm an expert in a lot of areas. But
Yeah, you are. I know, that's really fascinating.
But yes, what you mentioned regarding safety on devices is one of the things that I do try to cover. I have one line, and I also have on site courses for people to come in and learn not only about safety, but just the basics about using devices. A lot of people buy devices and or give them to their parents.
Yeah, I knew you were going to go there.
Yes, and they don't know what to do with them. I met a lady recently who had a laptop in a box for 3 years. So she took it out, and now she is learning how to use it. But one of the things that happens is people don't understand the threats on the internet, and clicking on a link that appears harmless, like looking at a pair of shoes, could have a virus embedded in it, and then the device is just going to shut down. Yesterday I had one in my shop that was talking. It was a very pleasant voice, but it was saying very mean things. You need to pay us, call this number, and do not turn your device off. You know, things like that that scare people.
It's like the phone calls that people use to target, especially elderly people or people who are a little bit vulnerable. They're doing it on the computer now.
They absolutely are. They will give you
wow.
a phone number to call and tell you you need to have a credit card ready to pay this amount of money, and they will release your device. So it's like hostage type tactics. So those are some of the things that I like to try to educate our citizens about. One of the reasons why I opened up was primarily for the training. I'm an educator, and I like to bring knowledge to people. I also like to talk to business owners about security and risk assessment, because what I tell them is that you can spend $1,000 up front to be proactive. But if you're not proactive, you're going to end up spending $5,000 on the back end to be reactive to a threat or a penetration that could impact your database, particularly if you have confidential data like lawyers and doctors and things like that. So I try to bring that type of knowledge to people and bring my expertise as far as coming in and assessing what they have, how their employees are using their technology, making sure they have policies in place, because some people will bring their mobile device in the office. They can take pictures of documents with their phone cameras. They can do a whole lot of things that can compromise the network. So those are just a few of the things that I try to specialize in at Coleman Comprehensive Solutions.
See, I was going to say, I don't think you'd mentioned that. And you're downtown on Queen Street.
I am on Queensway Mall. I'm at 47 West.
Well, this is boggling my mind a little bit. Like, I hadn't thought of all those other things, but also you have sort of a niche in that there are a lot of national consultant companies that work with large companies, but it sounds like you're working with consumers and sort of small businesses who can't afford to have that expertise on their full time, but who need some help.
Yes, that is correct. And what I've also realized is that most of the businesses in this area are small businesses, and small businesses are defined as businesses between 10 employees and 100. So anybody that is in business in Hampton most likely does not have more than 100 employees, particularly in the downtown corridor.
Yeah, that's true.
But I will expand outside the downtown corridor, but at the same time, it's easier to go in and assess a small business. They do some things right, but most things wrong, not because they're doing it on purpose. They just aren't educated.
Right.
And they don't understand the ramifications of going out to one of the box stores and buying 5 desktop computers and setting them up, and they're not running the proper software. They're not networked properly. Their employees don't pay attention to the types of things they're doing when they're not doing work. So they'll do some work, then they'll go online and start browsing and go to their Facebook page and find a movie to look at and those types of things. And all that advertising that's going on the borders of the window can have viruses and other types of threats embedded in them. So if you click, like I said, on the link that you're like, oh, that looks interesting, there could be a virus on the backside of that.
Okay, so I know you do training and you do consulting, and there's a cost for this. But while you're here, can you give us home consumers some tips on how we can be safer and minimize our risks?
Yes, the first tip I would like to give you is that you could come down to Coleman Comprehensive Solutions, and I can give you more tips in person. But
of course.
To give you some tips here today, the first one I'd say is be diligent about monitoring your email accounts if you have one set up, because a lot of people don't know how to set up an email account, but some of them do, and the ones that have email accounts can get email that is being spoofed, which means it looks like it came from somebody you know, but their account has been hacked. And so it'll say something like, hey, check out this link. So
Right, that's always a red flag. Hey, check out this link.
Yeah, and I'm like, okay, why would somebody say, hey, check out this link to me that I know that I get mail from all the time? And if you hover over that name, because it'll say Susie Jackson or whatever, and you're like, I know Susie. And so, but if you hover over it, you'll see the actual email address behind it. And it might be from Japan or Canada or UK. It'll have some extension on it. And also, the username will be like, okay, this is not Susie Jackson's
email. It's not really,
email.
okay. And you call that, what'd you say?
I said spoofing.
Spoofing, okay.
Yes. So just being more diligent about that. And if you just don't know whether it came from her or not, the easiest thing to do is just delete it without trying to do any investigative stuff like that. Just delete it and call Susie or send her a text or something else if you know how to text.
Find another way in.
If you know how to text.
If you get a Facebook request from somebody who's already your friend, be suspicious.
Exactly. Click the deny or ignore.
Just delete the whole thing, yeah.
Because that's also a problem now. People are creating mirror pages for others. They're even using
it even has the same photo sometimes.
Yes, it does. Same profile photo. And so I'm not quite clear on what the purpose of doing that is other than to be nosy. I don't know. People just don't have anything to do or they're just very devious. But being safe online is critical, and not just from a personal perspective, but like I said, from a business perspective, because if you're doing it on your employer's device as opposed to your own personal device, then you are creating a whole another kind of risk.
Right, so exposing yourself to risk is one thing, but putting confidential company information
at risk versus your personal device.
Well, so how do you know? Okay, so I go to legitimate sites, but some of the advertising appears a little suspicious, and sometimes it almost clicks without, like if I hover over it, or like, is there a way to know or to protect yourself from that?
There is sometimes a way. Like if you're trying to do a download, for example, sometimes you'll get a message that says, this certificate is not trusted.
Authentic or whatever.
Yes.
Okay.
Do you want to proceed? The answer should always be no.
Okay.
Do not proceed, and find something else or another way to do whatever it is you're trying to do, because usually if you're trying to download something, a lot of people also ironically get viruses from trying to download antivirus software, which is another thing I've seen this week. There are like antivirus software providers that say I have free antivirus software. You don't have to pay the whatever Symantec or some of the other ones are charging. You can get ours for free. Okay, download. Then nothing's working. So, that's a way also to acquire some of these viruses and other issues that can stop you in your tracks from using your device.
So free is a warning there, at least in terms of claims of being an antivirus. Oops.
Right. Yes, that is correct. And some of the more known ones will say free, and then they'll say you can do this as a trial period.
Right.
And
or
then
there's
after
upsells for more protection once you get there. Okay.
But the ones that are just, we're giving you a gift, they're not giving you a gift. They're giving themselves a gift by being able to access your information on your device.
Ooh, that is scary. Okay.
Yes, it is, and particularly with the holidays coming up. People are going to do more online shopping. They're going to go to more links. They're going to use their credit cards more. And if you've already acquired a virus, then some of those viruses get in and they can access every keystroke. So at that point in time, you key in your credit card number. Your credit card number is now part of that log of information that has already been accessed by this virus.
This is all scary, but it's also overwhelming. Like for those of us who aren't, I mean, I'm tech savvy enough to do things, but not necessarily enough to think ahead like you do. So other than consulting, are there any other tips that you have for people to think about right now?
Other than to come in and get a one-on-one session, tips to think about in general. When you are out buying a device, make sure you understand what you want it to do for you. So don't just buy one because everybody else has one. Okay, I want one too.
Right.
So make sure that you know why you want it and what you want to do with it, and that you buy the best possible, not just because it's the cheapest or it's purple. Because some people buy it based on the fact that it looks cute.
Yes,
And
that's true.
so those are some of the things that I would warn against.
Because some people overbuy and some people underbuy.
That is correct.
In terms of what their usage is going to be.
Right, and that's one of the courses that I give when I'm talking to seniors. I talk to them about general tech, let's talk tech, and the subtitle is this thing on? Because a lot of times they're like, so yeah, is this thing on? But then the second part of it is device selection and understanding what data plans are and those types of things when it comes down to selecting a device, if they're trying to get rid of the one with the hinge on it and get something that's...
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
And you know, that is really important for our seniors. And one of our recent citizen satisfaction surveys shows that like 97% of the people in Hampton have internet access. They may not always know how to use it. It might be only on a phone. It might be only on a laptop. But we as a society are very wired. And some people aren't entirely comfortable or don't quite know what they're doing. But they want to keep up with the grandkids, you know? And that's important. It allows us to be very connected, but all of that connectivity exposes some vulnerabilities.
It does. But if it's done properly, and if you're only doing it for a certain number of tasks, for example, like you mentioned, keeping up with the grandkids, having a mobile device that you can FaceTime or Skype or whatever, make sure you understand how to do that. And it's not difficult if you have training and you have practice. So that is generally not an area where you are vulnerable to threats. But it's also very useful, and it also empowers people. I call my workshops digital empowerment workshops because I want people to feel digitally empowered because they tend to be afraid of technology when they don't understand it. And I'm like, okay, I have this graphic that I use. It's a shark. I'm like, it won't bite you. So, you know, so people are afraid sometimes. You
are obviously very comfortable with technology, but came around to this career from a rather unusual path. You want to tell us how you got here?
Yeah, it meandered slightly. I started out as a physicist. Well, I still consider myself to be a physicist. I have a bachelor's and a master's, and the master's is in condensed matter, which is basically studying materials. And my PhD work was done in theoretical nuclear physics. And so I did a postdoc at Howard, and then I transitioned into technology because it was interesting to me, and basically because I'm impatient, and research takes a long time. But
interesting.
I do still stay engaged with my physics community. But the technology intrigued me, and doing some of the enterprise projects on campus were one of the things that kind of drew me in. Project management, making the campus more tech savvy, learning about physical access, network access, and managing all those things. That was pretty cool too.
So what prompted you to come back home to Hampton from the other HU?
The other HU, well, I was technically never gone. My home was always here in Hampton, and my husband was here, so I had an apartment in DC, and I did the weekend thing. The opportunity came available at the HU here, my HU, and I became the CIO back in 2013, but I couldn't do all of the things that I wanted to do because my time was tied up so much. I wanted to mentor, I wanted to teach, I want to write, and stay engaged in technology. So now I can manage my schedule and my timeline.
Well, congratulations.
Well, thank you.
And thank you for opening up a business in downtown Hampton.
Yes.
And I hope to see more of you.
Likewise.
I need some help here.
I'd like to see everybody in Hampton come on in if they need some help. And we are open, and we are excited about being able to bring back some of the skill sets that I have and empower people one at a time or in groups.
All right. Thank you, Trina. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching. I hope you're a little more aware of the threats out there, but also a few things you can do to keep yourself a little safer on the internet. Thanks for watching.